haven't officially started. Now we're recording.
Nice catch.
Wait.
Nice catch.
Let's get started. Did I say that? We've got lots to cover. Project updates from Catherine and Liz. Sustainability review from Liz, and Mark and Gary were part of the Eco Charrette that took place a couple weeks ago, I guess. Kurt, did I see Kurt here?
Kurt's in the audience. I'm going to pull him in a minute.
Kurt's going to have some update on the site design, which is something I know we're all very interested in. Jim's going to talk about some building design updates, what's going on there. And it looks like a short agenda, but there's lots to cover. So we'll get right on to it. First off, I know I'm supposed to take a roll somewhere in here. So let me find my list. I thought I opened that up. And see what's going on there. Let's see. So Ron Campbell. I didn't see Ron.
Ron is away on vacation.
Good for him.
Much needed.
Good for him.
He's in Utah.
All right. We got Mark Elliott. Did I see
He waved. Yeah, he just waved.
Yeah.
Oh, there. Oh, I'm looking at the list, so my visual is impaired. Dennis Hickey.
Here.
Kim Parman. She's not waving, is she? No.
I don't see her.
Okay. Rose Ojeda.
Rose is excused.
All right. Michael Schmier.
Present.
Christy Switzer. All right. Michael Newgard.
Michael's on reserve duty.
That's a valid excuse. Grover Bornefeld.
Present.
Jan Lindstrom. All right. Doug Jones, that's me. Shonda Wild. Do we have is Shonda on the phone?
Somebody's on the
Shonda,
phone.
is that you?
I think she's a 503 number, isn't she?
That's an 805 number. Let's see.
Hold on. Shonda, can, let's see. She might be trying to talk to us. Or, Shonda, if that's you, will you press *9?
It is her. I can see the phone number is a phone number that's in her list.
Okay. For some reason, we're not hearing you.
Is it the 805 number?
Yeah.
Can you press *6?
Muted. It's muted.
There you go.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Now you can hear me.
Oh, good. Good.
Hello, everybody.
Now we can carry on. Welcome, Shonda.
Thank you.
Hope you didn't go hoarse saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here.
No, but I sent Catherine an email saying, yes, I am here.
Oh, I
how
have
about,
too many devices here.
how about Paul
I know.
Bowden? Paul, I see you there.
I'm here.
All right. And then last but not least, Gary Bukowski.
Here.
Welcome, Gary.
You notice he said here. That's because he's here twice.
Pulling double duty. All right. Great. So a big focus of our meeting this evening is on sustainability. And just as you are all probably well aware, back when we talked about our community values and such, sustainability was a big part of that, as well as inclusivity. And so those are going to be themes throughout our evening tonight, which I think is something we all would say is important to all of us. Hopefully you saw the emails that Mark and Christy sent into to us, and for the record, and I want to say I'm sure I'm not alone in saying I appreciate the thoughtfulness from both of them. Some excellent information there, and some good points were made. And something that again is feels like it's in line with the values of this task force that we've been working on all along. So feedback is great. We appreciate that. Hopefully you also got a chance to look over the meeting summary for the meeting last we had April 8th. So any objections to making those? Actually, let's just vote to approve. Everybody in favor of approving the meeting summary as written?
Yes.
All right. Moving right along. So we're going to have some discussion of a few things, but we're going to have some specific Q&A sections in our meeting tonight. So because some of the conversations or the discussions, presentations are going to kind of overlap. So we'll make sure there's time for questions if you kind of hold your thought, because it might be that once one part of the discussion happens, that then the other part of the discussion actually answers the questions that came out of that first discussion, if that makes sense. I'm sure there's a clearer way of saying that, but I hope you're following with me. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Catherine. She'll let us know who else is here. Catherine, did you see that Ray's in the audience? I don't know if we want to bring him in.
Yeah, I'm going to bring him in a little bit,
Later, okay,
unless
later.
Liz tells me to do something else.
All right,
I
hold
only
your
do what
horses then,
Liz
Ray. We'll
tells me
get
to
to you.
do.
Good, good.
Okay. So I'll first, the staff that's in the audience, I want to recognize them. Pretend you're in a big room and they would be in the audience and they would probably introduce themselves. So I'm going to try to fill that gap. Allegra Wilhite is in the audience. She's the Deputy Director for Business and Community Services. DJ Baxter, I mentioned him last time. He works for a firm called Shields, Oblitz, Johnson. He's helping us on a few project management items. Ellen Rogalin from Public and Government Affairs is here. Candy Ho, the Interim Director for North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District is here. And then I'll just also note that Kurt Lango, our landscape architect, is here, as is Ray Johnston, and Julia Lett is also here from OPSIS. Oh, John Morrison's here too from OPSIS. So welcome everybody in the audience. And then I invited Eben Polk to come to our meeting. Eben is also a Clackamas County employee, and maybe Eben, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Good evening, everyone. I'm glad to join you for the meeting today. Again, my name's Eben Polk, and I'm the supervisor for the county's Sustainability and Solid Waste Program. We are part of the Transportation and Development Department, and we oversee garbage and recycling and sustainability initiatives on behalf of the county, which sometimes includes being part of conversations about building projects. So very happy to join you this evening. And also, I'm a resident of Clackamas County. I live in Jennings Lodge. So it's exciting to be hearing conversations about what will be my future library too. Thanks.
That's terrific that you're in Jennings Lodge. Welcome. And then many of you know that I am going to be leaving soon. This will be my last task force meeting. I've got 2 more weeks, and we have a new project manager I want to introduce to you. It's Jason Varga. Today is his first day. We spent the day looking around the area, went to Concord School with Liz, and we made it to Gladstone. And Jason, you want to introduce yourself?
Me? All right. Yeah, so my name is Jason Varga. Like Catherine said, this is my first day on the job. A little bit on my background. I come from the general contracting world. I've been doing that for 20 plus years. Most recently, I've worked with Skanska up at OHSU for about the past 6 years, being the project manager and in charge of a lot of remodels up there. So I'm really excited to be part of this project. It's a unique project, and you don't get to build these kinds of things very often. And I'm really excited. There seems to be a lot of great involvement from the community. And I'm sure we're all sad that Catherine's moving on, and I just hope I can keep things moving along, keep the momentum going, and build some really great libraries. So I'm really excited to get to meet everybody and get to know more about you over the time we're on this project. So thanks.
Thanks, Jason. We're really lucky to have you, and I'm glad you're here. And we've got a good transition time before I leave, so I'm sure that Jason's going to know everything there is to know in a very short amount of time. He's a quick study. So let's see, what else have we been doing as updates? I mentioned that that DJ, who's in the audience, is working on solicitation for a contractor. So that was one of the things. We just needed a little extra people power to get over the hump here. So he's working on that. We're in between meetings. We're having meetings with staff for the libraries, the community center, the park. So there's a lot of work happening between meetings. You know, I've been mentioning, we've been trying to buy the little piece of Olive Avenue that's on the next to where Olive Avenue ends and the Concord property begins. There's some vacated right of way. We actually bought it yesterday. We closed on the property. It's only 2,300 square feet, but it's going to be great. There's another piece of property similar adjacent to it, which we're also going to try to buy. And
extra park and extra parking or both. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's extra park in this particular case. And what it is it's really improves the access into the whole facility, including the park. So that's really
Cool.
important.
Great.
OPSIS and Liz has been leading the team for the zone change. We've been working on that. And we don't talk too much about Gladstone lately, but Gladstone finishes schematic design tomorrow, and that'll go out to the cost estimator for costing, and we'll keep in the loop on how that all goes. So that's it from me, and I'm going to pass it. Shall I pass it back to you, Doug, or just go straight to Liz?
I think we're going straight to Liz.
All right.
You don't need me for that.
Okay.
Oh, all right. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes.
Cool. Let's see. I'm just going to do a couple logistical updates and the same kind of, I think, topics that I get to talk about each time. Quick recap of the schedule so you can kind of see where we're at. We're in schematic design still. We've got about a month left. And then we move into a slightly longer design development phase and then CD phase. You can see we've got our task force meetings mapped out. We're on the yellow star now. I thought Catherine was going to break this news, but I think I have to, that we've added another meeting for you all. Because we realized when we were talking, we have so much on the agenda today, we really wanted to be able to focus on sustainability and design updates. And so we punted the business aspect to a next meeting that we'll have in June. And I think in that meeting, when we elect the new chair and co-chair, this will be helpful to think about the amount of task force meetings that are still remaining in the project. So after tonight, there'll be 4 more and the associated agenda setting meetings that we've been doing with the chairs and co-chairs. These are those 4 meetings in schematic design with our new, what we're calling business meeting in June. So today we're gonna, like Doug said, we're gonna concentrate on the sustainability subcommittee and the sustainable features, and then the design refinements we've been working on for the last month and a half. The next meeting we'll do the charter, the chair, co-chair, and then we've pushed selecting our art and history subcommittees till that meeting, because we've got a little bit more time there. And then we still need to set the final date, but in July, that'll kind of be our SD or schematic design wrap-up meeting, where we can see, it's like pencils down, we see where the design kind of is. Like Catherine said, the owner side will review it, our cost estimator will review it, and then we'll share with you guys, and we'll share the updated cost information when we get it. Doug already touched on this. We were happy to see, like, when we started thinking about the process that we've been going through in design, that the stuff that we're going to share with you, inclusivity tonight, came up a lot, and Kurt will share that when we talk about the design for the playground, and then also our restroom design, and then obviously incorporating sustainability as a major goal. I'm just going to touch on this really quickly because I know that Mark's going to go into this in more detail. But when we look at how we are handling this project from a sustainability lens, and how are we tracking that? How do we know how we're doing? What's our mechanism? And there's a couple different ways to do this. And one of them is LEED, which I think a lot of people were probably familiar with. It's pretty well known. It's essentially a scorecard. It's created by the USGBC, which is the Green Building Council. And basically it's a third-party verification system that they go back and check and see how you're doing. There's a lot of documentation that goes with that. It's tracked through construction, and by the contractor becomes part of it. Another one that we've looked at that's a newer one is called the AIA Framework for Design Excellence. And that's a framework that's adopted by the AIA, which is the organization that registered architects are all, for the most part of. It's a similar kind of scorecard scenario, but it's not a third-party verification. It's basically a way for the owner and the design team to look at what their goals are going to be for the project, do intermittent check-ins to see how we're doing, how we're meeting those goals, what we could do better. And then at the end, there's a similar kind of scorecard that's a summary of the sustainable features that we've incorporated in the building. This doesn't extend into the construction phase. It's really just focused on the design phase. So just something to consider. That's the way that we're structuring the project currently, is based on this AIA framework for design excellence. Another sustainability approach that we're looking at is utilizing the incentives from the Energy Trust of Oregon. And I think we touched on this a little bit at one of the previous meetings. And they're obviously focused on energy. So we're using them to help leverage some more robust energy studies, like a building energy model and a daylight model, so we can see how we can really maximize the daylight in certain spaces and use less electric lighting. And then some other technical assistance that could help us develop more robust sustainability strategies. And then those incentives track through installed equipment as well. So they also helped fund the ETO charrette that Mark's going to tell us about. And then last but not least, I think we were really lucky to have Eben be part of some of the conversations that we've been having about sustainability, and help us focus a little bit on what the county's sustainability priorities are and how those could potentially relate to this project. And, you know, the potential for buildings to be carbon neutral, embody carbon, which mass timber is a great way to do that, which, you know, as you all know, we're looking at CLT. And really looking at this project holistically and what it means long-term for energy use. So one thing, like after we've had all of these conversations, a really interesting concept that came up is, how do we share with the community all of these really great sustainability measures that we're doing in this project? And there's a lot of ways to do that. And these are a couple examples of projects that OPSIS has worked on recently. One is down at Oregon State, and the other I think is at the zoo. And it's really just, there's different kinds of graphics that we could incorporate or signage to point out specific aspects in the building to share this story. So I think with that, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and hand it over to Catherine for a sec.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I really appreciate, you know, Mark and Gary joining the Energy Trust of Oregon charrette, and then Mark taking the time to send the email. And also he's got a few slides that he wants to share with us tonight. So just as a little background, it is that we chose not to do LEED certification on this project, not because we didn't want to, it's because it's fairly expensive. And so we just really had to make a choice between the things that we were going to do and what we thought would be the best value for the project and for the community. So that's sort of the bottom line. We would love to do LEED if money was no object. So with that, Gary's going to cede his time to brief on the ETO charrette to Mark. So Mark, the floor is yours. Do you need?
Thanks, Catherine. I'll maybe just start with just a couple of observations, and hopefully, Gary, you might throw some things out too from the Eco Charrette. I think one of the great things, I really think it's exciting what the design team and engineering team is doing. They're really trying to integrate as many things as they possibly can into this building. And one of the ways in which that is gauged or scored, so to say, is what's called the building's EUI, or energy use intensity. And not to get too far into the weeds, but basically it's how much energy the building uses in a year divided by the number of square feet of the building. And so typically for a library, the EUI is around 71 EUI. As a comparison, a hospital uses around 450 has an EUI of about 450. And the highest use is believe it or not, a fast food restaurant, which is around 800 and something EUI. So we're starting at a baseline of around 71. And what the design team is really targeting as their target is an EUI of 18, 18, which is really, really aggressive. And just the Letting Library that everyone knows about that was just finished here, 2 months ago, has an EUI of 23. So we're trying to do even better than they are. So a little bit of a competition there. So the design team is really doing everything they can to meet those goals that we've set for the project for sustainability. And as we get into more of the discussion of the design, you'll hear more about what all those things are. It goes all the way from water management on the site, all the way to the light fixtures we use, to potential photo cells and photovoltaics on the top of the roof. So I guess what I wanted to share with you was just coming into the discussion of LEED versus not LEED. I guess I would start by saying that we don't have to do LEED certification in order to integrate all of these great ideas the design team is doing. I think what LEED allows us to do is to be a little bit more accountable to how we do it, what we do, when we do it, and all the people that are involved in it. So I thought for just a minute, I'm going to go really quickly just through a few slides and just a little bit of a background for some of you about what LEED is all about. So I'm going to try to share my screen here. Hopefully I can do that. So we'll see if I can do that. And I'm going to hope that everybody can see this.
Correct. We got it.
Okay, perfect. So what is LEED? So LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. And I think we've heard a little bit about it already, about what LEED is all about. And really kind of the big benefits of it, if there's an economic benefit and saving money with using less energy, consuming a lot less water, generating a less waste, both during construction and after the building is completed. There's a lot of healthy benefits to LEED. LEED is all-inclusive and including not just energy, but also what happens inside the building. It addresses things like air quality, how many air changes occur when people are in the building, using daylighting, using the kind of materials that go in the building, so that if you've heard of sick building syndrome, that was one of the things that LEED worked on a lot to get rid of some of the toxic finishes and materials that are often used in buildings that actually make people sick. And the other, is the environmental benefit of reducing our carbon footprint of this building and those who are using it. So just as a cursor, here's a few buildings that are done in Clackamas County that have been LEED certified. The first one was really Clackamas High School back in 2003, one of the very first high schools ever to be LEED certified. The two Clackamas County buildings up on red soils, the Public Services Building and the Development Services Building, and then more recently, the Oregon City Hall project is also LEED certified. So a little bit about the process, as we heard, this LEED process really starts from early design through the design, construction, and even post-construction. Oftentimes, a LEED project has what's called a post-occupancy evaluation, which occurs about a year after occupancy, just to see how things are actually working out from what we thought was going to happen. So in LEED certification, there are 4 different levels between certified, silver, gold, and platinum. And those different levels are based on the number of credit points that the project's able to get. So obviously, certified is not as many, platinum is a whole lot. And so each project has its opportunity to decide which level of certification they'd like to pursue. So as a part of that process here, oops, I lost something here. As the process, we start by selecting our LEED competent architects, engineers, and builders. And we have some very, very competent architects and engineers, and hopefully a good builder as well who has experience in LEED. Also, there's likely to be what's called a commissioning agent, independent commissioning agent who would be engaged during the design and construction phase to assist with the overseeing of the process. Finally, we register with the project with the USGB website, and then incorporate those LEED credit requirements into the design, submit all of the data that's required by those LEED credits to USGBC, and then finally receive the LEED certification from the Green Building Certificate Institute. So all of that, all that work really ends up with that little bronze plaque that goes on the building. That's the only thing I guess we really get out of them is that little plaque. So question is, and how much does LEED certification cost? So it really is down into a couple of categories. First, as far as what we have to pay to USGBC, there's a registration fee, pre-certification and final certification cost that is in the thousands of dollars. Probably the more expensive things are that there are additional architectural engineering fees that are required for LEED certification that are not currently included in the OPSIS contract. There's also additional construction costs for implementing some of these strategies. So some of the things that we would like to have happen are not currently in the construction budget. And so actually to get some of these LEED certifications, we might have to do some of that, but there could be additional construction costs for that. And there is more construction costs just for the contractor to have to actually do all the work that they have to do to meet the LEED certification. And then one thing I left off with here is, of course, the third-party commissioning agent who is also additional cost. So the question is, well, why certify? We don't have to, why should we want to? So I think really what it comes down to is accountability. And I think of it as how we might consider how someone builds a building. When you build a building, build a house, you have to get a permit from the city, from the county or the city. You have to have it inspected. You have to have a final certification from the building department before you can move in. So no one would suggest we would build this building without going through those things through the county. And I wouldn't accept that. I doubt that anybody here would. So in the same way that this LEED certification kind of provides that rigorous third-party certification process process that it really ensures that what we design, what we build and operate is actually done correctly. So just to finish up, I want to mention that, again, many of the sustainable elements that are being considered for this building meet those LEED credit requirements, and that LEED certification is actually possible with these design elements as they currently are planned in the project. So that's about all I had to say. And if there's anybody who has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I'm going to pass it back over to Catherine.
Well, actually, I think your timing is excellent, Mark. Good job. I think what we'll do is hold questions to the end. You know, we're going to be going through site design, and Kurt's going to talk about a few things, and then the design team's going to talk about a few things. So if you all don't mind, if we hold questions, we're going to have two Q&A portions of the meeting. One is after the site design, and one's after the building design. And then if we feel like we really want to spend more time on this, which really is up to you, we'll figure out how to do that. So I think, Doug, I'm going to just give it back to you.
Oh, you're going to give it to me so I can give it to Kurt? Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's right.
And I think Kurt has to give it to me so I can share my screen for Kurt.
All right. Can someone give it back to me? Okay, well, I'm just gonna hit the road and I'm gonna launch right into things because we're really excited about how the site has evolved over the last month. And just as a real bit of a refresher, a number of the things that we heard at the last meeting was the discussion about exterior restrooms. You know, where would be a good place to have them in the park versus in the building. Definitely, I think on everyone's mind was the design of the park area, how it could potentially progress from what was shown in the master plan. Also maximizing the loop trail system. I think providing a variety of loops and ways for people to get around the site. And then the last thing was considering the location of a seed garden. So with the next slide, I think.
Ooh, sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
Let's see. It's a beautiful site plan.
Well, maybe you go to the, try the next one even. Oh. Well, there I am.
This is definitely Kurt's slide.
Okay.
Best site plan yet.
I know.
Oh.
A lot of mystery.
Everything's possible.
It's what the site would look like in a major snowstorm.
Yeah, it is. It's a little bit
Very
foggy.
good.
It's a little bit foggy right now.
Let me stop sharing and do some tech support for myself and see if I can
Okay.
get it to show back up.
Okay. All right.
So Kurt, just take it
Sure.
away.
Well, let me just talk.
Paint a picture, Kurt.
Well, I will paint a beautiful picture. I think just to touch a little bit on sustainability, because I know just the most recent discussion is something that we've taken in earnest, and we've begun to meet with the civil engineer. Usually it's, we partner with architectural, civil engineering, landscape to really focus on these different areas that we can create sustainable environments. And one of the more important ones is how we deal with stormwater from the roof. And so what we've begun to look at are areas on site where we will be dealing with the library roof, stormwater, parking lot, and general landscape. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Great cover, Kurt. Thank you.
And I'll circle back around that in just a second. So this is, and hopefully this is the very last time you see this plan for a long time. This was the old master plan that we did, but I just wanted to have you just paint a picture in your mind of this image. So this is where we were. And if you want to go to the next slide, this is where we are right now. And so a couple things that we're really pleased with. We took a real hard look at the amount of grass and kind of flexible area that we had in the previous master plan. Can you just go back to that plan just for one second? Just see, so we had a number of paths kind of traversing that area, kind of a smaller, open, flexible area. I know people talked about, can we expand that? So if you go to the next slide, you'll see what we've done, what we've been able to do is really simplify the path system. And by doing that, we've really been able to extend the amount of kind of open, flexible space. And instead of these more kind of angular paths that we had last time, we've created this really, I think, wonderful kind of loop trail system that kind of navigates the site, that also helps us take care of the grade change that we have in the area. The other thing in the previous plan is that we had the play area, we had then the shelter, and then we had the tree grove. And what we kind of felt is that we really needed to make that shelter a little bit more front and center and actually do double duty. And what's really nice about the location and where it is right now is it both faces out to the flexible kind of open space. You can imagine kind of a pickup ball game or a soccer game going there. So people in the shelter can view that. But you can also look down towards the kind of the south, and you kind of see the play area as well. We actually have a grade change in that area of about 4 feet from where the shelter is down to the play area. So we've introduced stairs and stadium steps. So perfect place for parents to watch the kids or kids to gather. And then to take care of that, the issue with the restroom, what we've done is we've actually integrated it into the shelter. So where you see the hand kind of pointing right now is shelters, or rather the restroom is there, but the doors open to the left. So you can have your shelter and you can have your picnic in there, but the use in there is over and is covered over on the other side there. And then within that area, we have that trail that then connects to the kind of larger steps that come from the kind of I guess the kind of north-south axes right in there to provide accessibility from the lower plaza to the upper area. The other thing that you'll notice is that before we had the parking area kind of encroached into the park there. And I don't think anyone was really kind of happy with that because, why take up a valuable park space with parking? So what we've done is we've kind of shifted that over to Spalding Avenue. We've just lost a couple spaces, but we've still been able to retain most of them. So now you essentially park within that kind of right-of-way zone rather than in the park. So that allows us to put more pathways, more planting, bike parking in that upper area. So if you were to kind of park there and kind of walk down the park, the other thing that you'll notice is with those large steps that we have coming down before they ran right into the building. And, they were probably maybe 50 or 60 feet long. And so that might be great for kind of a project, a large city hall where you want to have these grand steps. So we just thought they're maybe a little bit out of scale. So we actually pulled them away from the building, from the library, to allow planting to come down in there. So when you're in the library, maybe kind of looking up, you get the sense of a little bit of landscape or planting. And then on the other side of those stairs, we have a more set of stadium steps that kind of extend out into the landscape. And I know we've talked with NCPRD, and I think they're really excited about the potential of programming of different types of events happening down in that plaza area and people sitting along there. And then as you kind of move farther down, where you see the blue dots are an interactive water feature. So that'd be a series of bubblers coming up. In red is a bench that provides kind of a protected area. So the beauty of something like that coming up from the ground is that when it shuts off, you can have events, you can use that as a stage, but when it's on, it just becomes just a kid magnet. Right next to that is the play area. And we have a couple slides about kind of what we're wanting to do in that. I think as Liz mentioned, inclusion from the very beginning, I think was an important goal for this project, and in particular the play area. So I'll kind of go back to, if we want to go to the next slide, I think it's maybe an enlargement. So this gives you kind of an idea of kind of these different parts and pieces. So we have the play area, we have the water element, and then right next to that, right in front of the library, is we have a kind of a large, what we're calling a signature tree. We haven't picked out the specific species of it yet, but the idea is that you have from day one, this really large tree that provides really a very nice backdrop for the library, provides a lot of shade to sit under. And as you're coming from Concord Avenue, it's right on axis. So really something very beautiful, has a beautiful winter structure we're imagining as well. If you want to go to the next slide, it's shows a little bit about that kind of the bubbler system. So, you know, these are 3 different examples, and I think we'll create something unique as well. But gives you the idea that the jets can come on, they can come at different levels at different times, but then when it's not on, it becomes an event space. Next slide. So just a little bit about inclusion, particularly as it relates to play area. And I think, you know, maybe for a lot of people, they think inclusion, so that may mean kids in wheelchairs and providing accessibility to different play components. And that certainly is very important. But really, it's not the only thing. In fact, if you look at that chart in terms of mobility versus other impairments, it's actually a very small portion. I think it's an important portion, but if you look at these different kind of color-coded sections, we look at a variety of things in terms of creating an inclusionary environment. And it deals with children that may have sight impaired, the whole autistic spectrum. And it's really about playing together. It's not kind of separating the uses, but creating play elements where kids can gather together and then experience it in a variety of ways. So if you go to the next slide, it gives you just a kind of the inkling of what we're thinking about doing. The centerpiece of this play area is actually an elevated deck, which you see kind of up in that upper left-hand corner. And if you go to the middle of the drawing, that is that kind of elevated piece that has a number of slides, different ways to get up to it, whether it's kind of natural stone or wood timbers. And the way that you access it from down in the play area is actually this ramp that kind of ramps up. It connects to that walkway that kind of traverses the site right there. But if you continue on, it becomes a bridge that gets to the play area. And what's really nice about that is it gets kids moving up into that, but it also is a really nice access point for kids that may be playing up in the open lawn area. They can just take that ramp right to that piece and then slide down the slides. Excuse me. And then we have a number of other pieces, swing sets kind of in the lower left-hand corner, which can rotate, and a number of kids can get on them and play on them, which is really interesting. And then we also have some smaller kind of environments, the kind of upper one, the cozy space and spinning, really for kids that need to have spaces that are a little bit more enclosed, less active. And again, it's about providing a variety of experiences. And then kind of throughout, you see some more instruments that are more musical in nature. And then also the use of natural materials. So the surface will be a rubberized surfacing, but we still want to be able to integrate natural materials where we can. So that's the play area. And then if we just circle back, and I'll just kind of touch on just a couple other things. The loop trail system So what we imagine is a number of kind of smaller loops, larger loops, definitely around that kind of open, flexible area, there is a loop. If you want to continue, I guess, east near Spalding, you would go down a series of stairs. And then you're kind of walking along the backside of the gym. You're kind of circling back around to Concord, and then you're then coming in that main kind of entry. That ends up being about a third of a mile. So 3 times around that, you kind of hit the mile mark. We looked at other locations and how we might expand it. When we did, we ran into either grading, existing tree, or just simply kind of safety issues. So our thought is, let's do this walk, let's do it right. And if we can hit a third of a mile, we felt we'd feel pretty good about it. Just last thing in terms of sustainability, that kind of lower section right there, you see a large stormwater planter. That's basically at the very lowest point in the site. So that's where a lot of the parking lot water is going to drain, and we're going to need kind of every square foot of that. And although we haven't picked out any sort of plant species or trees, certainly we'll be looking at native plants where we can, drought tolerant plants. And when we use an irrigation system, certainly sensors and monitors to make sure we're monitoring what we water. So that is a tour of the site and kind of where we're at right now.
Question, Kurt,
Yes.
from your site plan, I don't see Olive Avenue. Catherine just said that we purchased the,
Yeah.
you know, we've expanded that a little bit. I
Yeah.
don't see that.
Well, yeah, Olive Avenue is and good point. We should probably just show a little bit more of Olive Avenue, but Olive Avenue, where the hand is right now, that is the area that we've purchased. So if you basically draw a straight line from that right in there, that is the area that is now in our ownership. And what that allows us to do is, there's that existing sidewalk along there. We can make a straight connection right to it. So that's what we're planning on doing.
So no street there.
There will be no street kind of in our property, but the existing street, existing Olive will remain.
Up to the property line.
Up to the park. Yeah, they'll you know, I think we'll put some barricades there. So you won't be able to access and drive into the park.
So Olive Avenue south of the property line will no longer be there.
No, it will not. No, we're gonna, that's where we'll be planting trees, you know, vegetation within that area.
Okay.
And Kurt, that access to the site in the upper left-hand corner, that's an existing right-of-way?
Yeah, it's a small easement that goes through the neighborhood right there. So right now that walkway just kind of dead ends. So we'll be connecting to that.
Yeah,
question.
I think that goes to Oldfield. I forget the name of that dead end street up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kurt,
Can I
it
go?
would seem the large tree, since we're in Oak Grove, basically, wouldn't we use it? Wouldn't we use a large oak tree, like white oak or something?
Yeah, that'd be really nice. We tried to on a number of projects get large white oaks. They're certainly really hard to come by, just in terms of being able to transplant. You know, if we, and that, I think that's a great idea. And you can imagine, you know, 50, 100 years from now, how big it would be. The other option would be to find another type of native too, that we can get a little bit bigger day one. But I think right now, I think we're open to all species, all considerations. But good point. It seems like that would be a natural.
Yeah, Dennis, that's the tree that came to my mind too, an Oregon white oak, but
Yeah.
they're super slow growing, super slow growing. So it wouldn't amount to much in my lifetime, your lifetime, or Kurt's lifetime together.
Okay, point well taken.
Yeah.
I guess for Catherine, I just had a question, like a water feature in terms of the county and running this, does that add more insurance cost or something like that? Is it? I like the water feature. I think it's a great thing to have. It's just a question. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
There's certain things we have
So
impact the insurance.
I don't, no, I don't, it doesn't add anything in insurance. It, you know, it has a additional capital cost, of course. And the reason why we think, you know, it was included in the program, it was commented as a desired element quite a lot in our public engagement. I mean, you probably remember that. But also it's a nice civic element for the site. So not only for children to play in, there isn't an interactive water feature anywhere in this area. And then also the civic nature is important. So, but I think we're good on insurance. It's a pretty common element in a park.
Okay.
Looks like Grover has a question. Grover, go ahead.
Thank you. Nice work. I really appreciate the thought and adjustments that went into this. I had a couple questions about, given the terrain change and the already existing water runoff from uphill, which would be straight up, which is east, and just in general coming across that whole area. So I see your pond at the bottom, but I'd like to ask about having swales possibly in the parking lot, which I've seen in many places. And in addition to that, is there any plan for using water runoff for irrigation and or landscape irrigation and or in toilets? Because I've been to lots of places that you go to the restroom and it says this is don't drink the water because it's recycled, and we get plenty. So I don't know if that's a factor. And that was my big things. But again, kudos, nicely adjusted presentation.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, good questions. Yeah, we've, you know, whenever we can, we like to do swales, you know, within the parking lot. We do have a green kind of strip or swale kind of midway in the parking lot just to help out a little bit. I think as you can kind of see around the boundaries of the parking lot, it's all really pretty tight. You know, potentially we could pull the parking lot a little bit closer to Concord Avenue, but right now we're dealing with grades and entrance grades. So I think certainly it's something to consider as we kind of dive in right now. It's a little bit less expensive for us to do one kind of larger stormwater facility rather than doing a whole number, but that's a good point. And then let's see, you asked about, I'm sorry.
Recycled water?
Oh, recycled water. I'm sorry. Yeah. Using cisterns. So we do cisterns on projects. They tend to be a little bit smaller projects with less irrigation demand. The way that usually with the cisterns, if you build a huge cistern, it takes like 2 days of winter rains, you know, or winter rains usually just to kind of fill it up. And so we have an overabundance of water, but then to irrigate a site like this, you drain it right away. So really during the summer months, you would never be able to recapture enough water. We have been involved in a lot of projects, however, that do a toilet flushing, which I think I'll let Jim kind of respond to that. But you know, the strategy for us is to not try to use you know, a lot of water, and that's through the use of drought tolerant plants.
Right. the idea of the one swale that you talked about in the middle of the parking lot, if the thought of including a couple of others of those between nose in parking would have been, and it's just a thought to consider.
Yeah.
But I do get what you say about for my own little 1/3 acre yard, I have to start watering in July and water all the way into September. And we couldn't hold that water. So I got that. Thanks.
Yeah.
Kurt, has there been any thought to doing pervious paving for the parking lot to
Yeah, that
get
was
water through that?
Thanks, Doug. That was my question.
Oh,
Yeah. We've discussed not this parking lot, but the parking lot up in Spalding, doing some pervious paving up there. And primarily it's because not having kind of a large surface area to take care of the water up there. Honestly, when we're kind of dealing with economics and budget, the less expensive thing is to do kind of a larger stormwater facility that we have. Make sure we do it above grade so people can see it. They kind of understand what we're doing. Pervious paving is always an option, but there's certainly you pay a lot for it. And then the maintenance also over time is fairly intensive because a lot of them tend to clog up.
I was also thinking like they did in Multnomah Village in their community center, the parking lot in the back is paving stones with grass growing through it. You park on it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kurt. Any other questions for Kurt before we move on?
Doug, I think Christie's had her hand up.
I do. Two things. One, I was looking at the bridge area that's the half circle. In the very center of it, I wasn't sure what that marked. Is that like I'm sorry, in the play area? The bridge area that yes, that area. And then the second thing was I'm just looking at it through like a line of sight perspective. So you're in the playground with two children and you want to be able to see them at all times. If you're standing in the playground and say one child goes to do the half circle, but then decides to take off and continue on the pathway and leave the playground, what's your line of sight if you're standing there? I know there's a 4-foot grade you said, but so I just think about like, are you going to be able to see if the child takes off? Do you have a view from inside that playground?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think for us, our next step is to get this into a 3D model so we can kind of zoom in and take a look at those sight lines, because you're right, that's really important to us as well. And these bridge elements won't be solid along the bottom. You'll be able to see underneath them, which also becomes play environments too as well. So sight lines is definitely important. And then you had a question about what the round circle was. So if you go back to the play slides, or if you just go back just for 1 second. So that is this over on the left-hand side, that kind of merry-go-round right there for kids just to be able to, scoot into and then rotate.
Much safer than the merry-go-round that I played on. Thank you.
Great, good questions.
All right, thanks for those questions.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Well, we'll see if we have any time later if anything else pops up. But at this point, I think we're turning it over to Jim.
Great. Well, we're also excited to share some of the updates on the building plan. Some of them are pretty subtle, but still very significant. And many of them are in response to the comments that you all brought up to us at our last meeting. Starting to really look carefully at the staff area on the second level that offers oversight potential of the teen area. So we'll share some updates on that. We have been refining the restroom layout. And there were some comments brought up about sight lines and safety and where lockers are. And so some refining that we've done there. And of course, you know, the acoustics between the gym and the building program, especially the community area, and there's the classroom space. And so we'll share some thoughts there as well. And we've had further discussions about the operations during a disaster with really a focus on the gym space, the new gym space, because it has, it's seismically separated from the existing building. And that's a very efficient way to, in a modest expense, to upgrade the structure and allow that to really be a great resource for the community in a disaster situation. Yes, equity between the community center and library. I would say the library's caught, or excuse me, the community center's caught up to the library in many ways over the last month. We've had lots of meetings and have drilled into a lot of detail. Again, we're, you know, for both elements, we're at schematic design, so there's a lot of things to still work out, but we'll share those updates. And then the kitchen's been another big focus for us. We've met with our kitchen designer and had some really good workshops looking at how to optimize the use of that space, especially as a teaching kitchen, and as well as some other functions. So great comments, and really helped guide us over the last month. And so the plan here probably looks pretty familiar. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here on this plan, but maybe we'll start with just sharing an update on the library area. Ray's been, and he's going to share what's been going on. He's had some detailed meetings also on the workspace for the library, but we're going to focus on sharing an update on the kind of more public side of the library.
All right. Yeah, thanks, Jim. Yeah, just a report on the workroom and Friends area. We found storage space for Friends. The workroom is really starting to click with a lot of good input from staff. And then we've been massaging the program layout and integrating it with the ideas that are coming along in terms of the architectural character of the building. And, you know, we're all really excited about how those two are starting to mesh. I suspect Jim will talk about that a little bit in a minute. Could we zoom in on the right-hand half of the library? I won't go into the weeds too much, but basically, where you can see the sliding door panels, we're envisioning something that really opens up so that it's not exactly like a door, it's just you can walk through there when the library is open, large sliding wall, and you come in, greet the librarian on your right, and then you can really see down that kind of LA that goes through media, music, large print, and on into the children's area. And you can see kind of at the ends of the primary collection, which occupies the middle of the reading room. And you can see a path beyond that to the west of the primary collection that leads you down past the teen area to a service point and to lounge study areas and computers. Along the way, just a few highlights. To the left when you enter, there's a Friends sale area, and there's also a holds pickup area with a self-check. And that's kind of a nice combination because you can come in, maybe you're just in a hurry, you just want to grab your books, check them out and go. And you can do that in that area. And then periodicals are right there, along with a little bit of cafe seating and lounge seating, and kind of display new books, quick reads, kinds of things that you just need a book or something and you want to get in there and grab it and go. And then other things that are quick access are along that easterly LA with the media, There's a thing called LOT that hasn't really appeared before. That is the stacks that will hold the pictures of the library of things. And the workroom now has space to house the library of things. And we've thought through access for that, easy, quick access for librarians, because some of those can be kind of heavy. And then the history area, we're kind of excited by that. It's articulated from the rest of the library, but not enclosed to a degree that anybody might feel comfortable going in there and looking up things about the history of the region, or figuring out how to join the history detectives. There's a little study room tied to that, and then there are 3 additional study rooms. We have 4 small ones of varying size, and 3 of them are right there. And then if we scroll down just a little bit, probably the space I'm going to try to snag when I come in there is that study room that's surrounded by garden down there. I think that's going to be a real special place. Biggest problem about it will be everybody will want to occupy it. Yeah, and the rest, I guess the other thing, looking in the upper left-hand corner, is the children's library. Like the entire library, it's pretty packed with materials. So as we wrap up this phase, we are going to quantify and check collections. Mitzi and company are continuing to evolve their collection. And so we might see some loosening up in that children's area to provide a little more floor area for the kids. Right now it's kind of divided. The 2 lounge areas, there are really 3, are meant to service different age groups. So as this evolves, you'll see that. And I think Jim's been thinking about some kind of cool ideas for what the character givers of that space might be. So all of those are in flux. And lastly, in the children's area, near where it says CH Magazines, we're looking at maybe dropping the windowsills down closer to the floor of the library, so you get a sense of the outdoors out the back of the building there. I think those are the highlights. Anybody have any questions? I guess there is one thing maybe on the list there, that as we've refined our thinking, you can see the kind of salmon pink areas that are the same color as the workroom. The one up there is more or less the children's librarian office. And the one below is a librarian that's more focused on nonfiction collection, reference computers, and that more remote service point there. So we're really starting to dive down into the way the library will function and the way librarians will be there for patrons and have visual access to the occupied areas of the building. Coming out really nicely, I think.
Yeah, it's looking great, Ray.
And Jan, I think if it's okay, we'll wait and we'll cycle back around if you don't mind holding your thought.
No problem.
So we'll zoom into the rest of the kind of public area, the ground floor. Some of the major changes we've made really have to do with the lobby area. We've now created what has been referred to as the community resource area as being more of an L shape. So when you come in, we've wrapped some of the social and seating opportunities around the face of what used to be a window that directly opened up to the reception of the NCPRD offices. And that's one of the things we've had lots of discussions back and forth on with NCPRD as well as the library. And the thought here is that that's going to be more of a solid wall with an open corner of glass, but that wall represents a really great opportunity. We're looking at putting a good monitor, LED monitor on it that will have a lot of information, community information. Some of the ideas brought up before, we're having a counter where you could have computers to look up information. There might even be the opportunity for some coffee or pastries that someone might bring in. So this has a really kind of a great kind of social aspect to it. Opportunities for tabling if there's information about certain social services or programs going on, community events that can all happen right there. And then up above, going straight up part of the lobby, there's still a really nice lounge area right in front of the library. The one thing that we've done though is increase the size of the library multi-use room. It used to stop right at the back of the elevator. And we think this is an improvement to give a little more space back to that room, and then to have a glass window at that corner looking into that space. So it's kind of a neat kind of eddy or alcove area off of that library space. And it brings the identity of that room much closer in. And so the lobby has kind of 3 separate kind of zones of seating areas. So it'll be really, I think, exciting space to be in. And then the purple area, I'm not going to get into a lot of detail there, but we've spent quite a bit of time working with NCPRD staff and really understanding all of their staff needs and how to optimize the layout and make it flexible. So one of the results of that is they really need some dedicated meeting rooms. And so those are now, both of those are facing towards the lobby, but they're really internal for the NCPRD staff. And the entry is kind of pulled down the hallway a little bit, which actually works out really well. We're thinking there'll be a lot of transparency into the meeting room as well as the entry, but it brings some life and vitality to that hallway, which we think is will be important. And then the restroom area, we've continued to do some refinements, pretty subtle. You know, it's been more like, well, where does the janitor's closet go in the IT and MDF room? So those have now found a home. And where at one point, the last meeting, we had lockers located there, and there was some comments that, you know, having the lockers there may not offer the best in terms of sight lines. So I think it works out really well. We're excited about putting them then on the, I guess, Plan West face of what's the women's locker room. So they're kind of right next to the entry to the gym. You might come in and just want to use the lockers and not go into the locker room, or you come out of the locker room and that's a place to put your items. So we think that's a really good place, and it offers good sight lines to the locker rooms. And of course, we've come up with a layout that offers really good sight lines for monitoring the restrooms. And then the men's and women's locker room. And they're labeled locker rooms, but in reality, they're also restrooms as well. So there's really within this a lot of variety, depending on people's comfort and what sort of environment they want to be in. And then a large gym storage area and lots of other support grade spots as well. So that's the updates down below, main level. And then as you go upstairs, kind of start with the other purple area. You know, that was just an open, undefined purple box the last time we saw it. And so now we know that we need to provide space for 4 staff, having good visibility and monitoring. That L-shaped reception desk has really good sight lines to the stairs, to the teen space, as well as to the community room and even into the gymnasium. So it's kind of in an optimal location. We're also looking at having a glass window to look into the vestibule of the historic entry, because we know at times those doors will be used for special events or egress. So we want to be able to still have some good sight lines there. That's a first aid room. So program elements like first aid or additional storage are starting to find their way into the planning. And it's kind of fun too. And this has been in the plan for a while, but there's a 2-story open space from near the teens that looks down below to that community resource space. So you'll have a good connection to the 2nd floor that currently is kind of missing. The other area that we've really spent some time on is the community meeting room, starting to show, you know, at least initial kind of take on layout, close to 200 person capacity at round tables. Also looking at exactly how the partition wall storage is going to be located. And then with especially the south portion of the community meeting room, in the middle portion, providing a little alcove area that would have sinks and some limited storage. And what that allows is the capability, you know, for those to operate independently. You could warm up some tea or coffee there independently of the kitchen, whereas the north portion of the community room has that direct access to the kitchen. In the kitchen area, we've really, as I mentioned, had some really good workshops with our kitchen consultant. Probably the next meeting we get into design development, we'll share some of the thoughts there. But really keeping a focus and an eye on it being a teaching kitchen, being kind of one of the primary needs of the facility, what we've heard from you as well as the community. The other big change is the service bridge, which we've had in the plan for a while. And it used to be located more to the north, and now we moved it a little further to the south. And we're excited about this move. Seems like a simple thing to do, but what it allows is that bridge to serve the whole building. You don't have to go through the kitchen if you're, you know, bringing, for instance, perhaps there may be our garbage and recycling might be up there. You're just delivering materials and items to the second level. Now you're going through the just that north portion of the community room, but you still have that direct relationship to the kitchen. There's also the other side of the library is having this mechanical room that serves it independently. So that mechanical room, which and the bridge are all kind of tied together. And so there's been a fair amount of technical work on how to make all that kind of seamless. So we're excited about that. And, you know, near the restrooms too, we've added a janitor's closet and just, you know, just some of those functional items that are really important for the building operation. So those are the kind of main plan things. Liz, do you want to share a little update on the energy side of it?
Yeah, and Mark did a really good job of kind of talking about the EUI and how we're measuring our energy use in the building and our targets. And now our code baseline is 37. And so we've started to look at the different types of systems to get us down to that target number that Mark mentioned of 18. So these are the things that don't show up so well on plans yet, but we're looking at, you know, the way that we're doing, we're designing our envelope, which is the walls and the insulation associated with that, and the roof, the domestic hot water heating, the lighting that we're using, the LEDs that are super high efficient, and then controlling that even more with daylight and occupancy sensors, sensor controlled plugs. So this is like things that would turn on or off depending on use for the actual plugs that we're using in the building. Super sustainable HVAC system. Our heating system is called a VRF. We're preheating the air that is coming into the building, or pre-cooling it with the exhaust air. So the heating system can work a little less hard to get the air to the right temperature. And that's the air-to-air heat recovery. Looking at using displacement ventilation, which is bringing the new air in low and letting it naturally kind of climb high. And then a radiant slab, which is, you know, you see in a lot of residential homes too, where we have the concrete slab and the heating is all happening down at that level, which is super efficient. It's right where all the people are. So we're just starting to look at all of these systems and how those slowly eat away at our EUI and get us to 22, but that's not quite to the 18 that our target is. So the way that we're going to try to get to that last little chunk is through using renewables. And that is our solar panels. And so we are part of the 1.5% green energy technology because we're a public building. So That means that 1.5% of the construction cost will go towards some sort of green energy technology. And usually that ends up being solar panels. So we've started looking at where those would be and the amount of space that would be required to get to spend that quantity of money. So how that pot of money translates into a quantity of solar panels. And right now it's looking, this is a fairly rough idea of where they would be. We're trying to target the roofs of the new construction because it's just a little bit easier to integrate it onto those roofs and the structure that's required. So we'll keep refining this, but that's how we're kind of chipping off that last little bit of our EUI to get us down to that target.
We'll kind of go through a little bit of the exterior and interior character. This is just kind of the bird's eye view down at the massing of the library next to the existing Concord School. And then the next view is looking more from the kind of southeast corner and looking at the gymnasium space. And that's something we haven't really shared too much about. It's kind of tucked into the earth, so it's the grade is up 5 feet, which starts to give the gym a really nice scale. There's also an addition next to the gym. It's kind of partially in the gym. It's the other kind of lighter brick color, and that holds the mechanical zone. And then we can go to the next view. And this is what it might feel like. Obviously, there's some of the parking here, but you can see the scale of the building steps down, and we're really kind of happy how the gym really starts to feel more like a pavilion with a garden wall around it. There'll also be a service court next to the mechanical, which we're thinking might be a brick screen wall of sorts. And we can go to the next slide. This is inside the gymnasium. It looks probably very similar, but it's actually evolved quite a bit. One of the big epiphanies was to create a one truss that runs in the planned north-south direction, east-west direction. And what that does is that holds in smaller spanning trusses that go over the majority of the gym space and creates this kind of open clear zone where the skylight is. One of the things we're really trying to do is minimize the structure that spans across from the gym to the existing facade and where the windows are into the historic gym. So what this does is really maximize the amount of daylight coming into the historic gym and creates this really kind of interesting clear zone between the gymnasium roof and the historic gymnasium wall. And we can go to the next slide. And we haven't really shown this before, but just the integration of the historic facade of the addition, the original addition. The goal there is to retain the windows, but put impact glass in. Where we have storage or restrooms or mechanical space, we'll probably back paint the glass, but the idea is that we retain the historic character. And then we'll also be replacing the windows in the historic gym, which are now a cow wall, kind of a foreign material, and put something in there that's more appropriate. The windows actually next to the community room up above, it's already insulated glass. So I think the goal is to work with insulated glass. So that'll help with some of the acoustical issues that were raised as a concern. And you can see the impact of the wood roof, the CLT. I think it'll be a really beautiful space. You can go to the next exterior image. Very similar to what we showed before. You can go to the next one. I want to make sure we have lots of time for questions. This is interesting because what we're starting to show now is the brick screen wall up high, where we have kind of incisions into the facade where daylight comes down into the garden and it's open to the sky. And we're excited about what that can mean in terms of starting to add a really interesting texture and scale to that brick facade. You can go to the next image. These are some of the updates in the library. I think we shared the idea before of this, these light wells that bring light into these kind of carved out spaces that might have color in them, but they also bring light into the library. That would be a scrim material. When it comes across solid wall, it would have acoustical treatment behind it. Those are the white planes. Things that we've started to look at is the children's area, getting a color on it. It may not be red, but the idea that it really has an identity. Could be an art wall, could be lots of things, but it's not a white wall. It needs to have character to it and personality. And then we can go into the next view. This is looking back towards the Concord School. You can see the impact of this really kind of beautiful kind of phenomena wall, a levitating surface with the colored planes. And the seating, really wonderful seating areas underneath. It's really beautiful the way, Ray's organized the library with these stacks down the middle, good clear sight lines through, but really wonderful seating and a variety of seating opportunities on either side of the stacks. Let me go to the next view. This one's really exciting for the history detectives. So this is where we have the historic area. The thought is that would get a wood finish to it. Might even recall the darker stained wood that is part of the original Concord School. So you bring that kind of sense of history and that warmth of the wood, both into that history area as well as some of the meeting rooms next to it. The white volume, it would be the office, and then of course the red that wraps, and opportunities to open up this lower ceiling with openings that feel nice connections up to the CLT ceiling in here, as well as to the clear story windows. This is a new view, gives you kind of a sense of the Ray's room. I think Ray's gonna be a donor for that. Ray's got his name on that one.
Ray's room has a nice ring.
Yeah, it's cool. We're gonna fight over that one, Ray. I mean, that's a cool room because you're right in the garden that wraps around you. You can see how the garden comes in, and where the brick screen is, that's open to the sky, so rain will come down and filtered light. I think it's really kind of a magical space that's going to be created here. And then a couple more details of the outside. This is a fun view because we've also started to model the textured brick on the historic building above the entry. So the intent is that textured brick and pattern that starts to inform and create a dialogue back to the screen, that the brick screen that's integrated into the floating brick volume. And then a little more of a close-up detail. This is fun because you can really start to see this indoor-outdoor connections, these kind of special spaces and rooms that are kind of carved into that brick volume underneath. Let's see, I think, unfortunately, we actually have 3D opportunity here, but we really want to open it up to questions right now. And if there's any time at the end or people want to stay longer, we can always give you a 3D virtual tour. Are you up for that, Mike?
I don't recognize that person.
Yeah.
Oh, am I still sharing my screen? Oh, God. This is my son. Catherine, will you take sharing rights away from me? Here, we'll hide him for a minute.
Yeah.
I was going to stop sharing so that we could all see each other to chat, but I'm happy if there's a view that someone wants to go back and look at, I can redirect us.
Can you stop sharing for a minute, or are you having trouble doing that, Liz?
My sharing controls have disappeared.
Interesting.
Can you steal it from me? Is that an option?
Maybe.
Hey.
It looks like you did, right?
You did.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's amazing what.
Don't give me that power back.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks, Ray and Jim for that. That was I'm sure I'm not the only one who thought that was just super exciting. But of course, there's comments, questions. Grover's got his hands up, so let's go ahead and start with Grover.
Okay, great. Yeah, I did appreciate a bunch. In all the pictures of all the versions, I don't know what it looks like in where the entrance is in the old building that's going to lead to the library and the library, that space in between that's not inside. There's never been a picture of what that looks like. So that's a mystery. Don't need an answer now, but go ahead.
The next meeting we'll share that, as well as what it feels like to actually be in the lobby, where there's actually a lot of structural work that we're determining how much of the existing ceiling we open up and a lot of character items. So we definitely, the next meeting, we'll focus on that for you for sure.
Thank you. The other is, I know in the beginning we had a lot of conversation about seismic and the bricks and stuff, and I haven't heard how that's been resolved. The safety of the brick building and the seismic issue. And I'll give you both the questions. And the other is, there was discussion about the seed garden, and I don't know what's being done when you come into the parking lot by the gym. What's that uphill, which would be the eastern raised area? What's being done with that? Because that's where I think of an idea of, anyway, those are my questions.
Liz, you want to go with the structure?
Sure. Yeah. So we are doing structural upgrades to the existing building from the inside. So it's basically we're adding sections of new wall, which is a combination of shotcrete and framing that will help support that. And then also new sheathing across the roof. And so those systems will all kind of tie together to create a more robust structural system at the existing building. And we're still working out all of those details, obviously, but that's the general strategy that we're utilizing. And then the seed garden, we're still figuring out kind of what that means if it is in the project, and how that would manifest itself. But I know we've got some areas identified as potential kind of places that it could get tucked in if it ends up becoming part of the project.
Thanks.
I might add
And
to
as a
that.
point of
We do have a seed cabinet that's located and near some tables that are designated where you could work on that. And there's even a little storage area next to that, should that be useful.
That's awesome. I talked to the seed people, and they have more demand than there is space for. But if they could have one demonstration garden on site as opposed to all their needs being met, that's my interpretation. Don't shoot. As opposed to having to accommodate all of it, because I don't see how that's possible, but I'll leave that up to you guys. Thanks.
Catherine, you wanted to
Yeah,
share?
Grover, we are taking a look at the potential of the seed garden on the exterior somewhere. We're trying to just figure out what it means in terms of space, who would own it, maintain it. So we're just trying to understand the feasibility of it right now. It wasn't something we initially planned for, but we're taking a look at it.
All right, looks like Gary's got a question.
Oh, Gary, yeah.
Okay, maybe something's changed, but it seemed like I recall during the Eco Charrette that when a discussion was about the photovoltaic application on the roof, it was pretty much being considered only for the new construction. And when somebody raised a question, I think, about using the older construction, the school building, for the roof, I got the impression actually a good idea to use the old structure. But I see it added this time.
No, Gary, you're right. We're all on the same page. The goal is to keep the PV off of the existing roof. So it was the yellow on that diagram. So we're really just exactly what you said. We're targeting the new construction for trying to accommodate all the solar that we need to.
Yeah, I noticed on the existing, the PV that was illustrated on the existing building in really tiny print, it said not desirable. Not desirable location. But it's
always in the fine print.
It's the fine
isn't
print.
it?
Yeah.
It's the fine print, yeah. Yeah. If you saw me going squinting and looking real close, I'm like, I think that says that.
Warning. Yeah.
Mike, go ahead.
Well, I just want to say to OPSIS, I'm very impressed, very, very impressed. I'm very excited by what I'm seeing. And I wasn't wearing a hat before, but I'm wearing a hat now, and my hat is off to you.
Oh,
Excellent,
oh my God.
excellent job.
That's,
That's very exciting. Really, really coming along great.
oh, that's so nice to hear. Our whole team appreciates that. It's obviously a big effort for everyone. Everyone's doing a great job, and Ray Johnson, and we could go down the list, but that would take 5 or 10 minutes, so we won't do that.
You know, my older sister is almost, well, gosh, she's closing in on 80 years old, and she went to Concord. I can't wait. I hope she lives long enough. I can't wait
Yeah.
to bring her back to Concord to see this, what Concord is going to look like when this is all done. It's very, very
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, well, we're excited too to share more interior views. You know, we're still getting our head into it. And we think there's some really exciting opportunities to enhance and bring back some of the historic character even, and especially on the second floor that's currently missing. And so it's going to be really fun.
And there's that magic word, Jim, history. I'm excited to see how the history space is going to pan out. And
Yeah.
I have a bunch of historians on my case to make sure that we have a space for history. And so it looks like it's coming along.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, hopefully more than one space, right? You know, I
Yeah.
think there's lots of opportunity here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna add my comments and compliments to Jim, but to Ray as well. Ray, I'm really liking how that library is shaping up. It's it was hard for me in some ways to vision some of it, just from my practical point of view. And one of our attendees also, another librarian I know who, as she mentioned, worked in a lot of libraries, was excited about the shape of it thing, how it's coming together. She had a question that I had as well, which is if you could tell us just a little bit more about the teen space and we couldn't tell if that was just a wall or shelving around that. What are you doing there to kind of give both privacy and yet still visibility?
Well, there's moderate height stacks around it so that you can see in, but there'll probably be 44-inch stacks there. We're just in the process of quantifying all that and sorting through the final, quantification of the program. And then there are stacks that are a little taller that divide it into a couple areas. So I think you'll be able to see in really easily, but at the same time, there'll be a sense of having different areas. And then what Jim's doing with the overhead condition is a whole layer that you're just seeing a hint of so far that will just make these spaces sing and help to articulate parts of the teen area as well as other pieces of that westerly portion of the building.
All right, Gary, you've got your hand up again. Go ahead.
Okay, this relates back again to the eco charrette. I wondered if you're still considering charging stations in the parking area, and if so, how you would handle that, given who gets it first and how long they can be parked there, and number of issues like that. So,
since I have an electric car and a room named after me in the library, I get first dibs on that.
That was easy.
Evan, do you have any thoughts on that about charging stations and how people handle them in public buildings, sites?
Sure, yeah. So we're partnering with our facilities division to roll out level 2 electric vehicle charging stations. I think we're aiming for around 8 to 10 new stations at county properties every year. I would say that you should assume on having some EV charging there, probably at a minimum by laying conduit, so that the space is available to add charging stations later if you don't have the funds to start with a couple. But I would suggest starting with maybe, 2 charging stations that each have 2 charging heads on them, so you can serve 4 cars at a time. You also might want to consider a low-tech bike charging option near that, because electric bikes are going to be more popular all the time and are great options for older residents who don't want to have to drive, but also don't feel like riding a regular bike. It's going to be a very popular technology in coming years.
Especially for the baby boomers.
Catherine's going to take up bike riding in her retirement.
Oh, I've already done that. Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
I'm curious, if you don't mind, Doug, Paul, we haven't heard from you in a long time. Do you have any thoughts? I just want to make sure we get to everybody in these meetings.
No, I think it's coming along great. You know, I'm kind of representing the Friends group here, so I was just commenting on I appreciate seeing the seed cabinet in there and the discussion of the seed library. And I think as Grover's right on, is we don't have enough site here to do what they really want, which is probably about a half an acre worth of property. That takes up a lot of space, but having something to feature that would be really, really nice and tie it into the community. I have a little bit of concern over the number of shelves for the Friends. Their sales point is kind of what one of their main funding sources, and selling used books and things like that. We can never have enough shelves for that. So it's always nice to see as much space as we can get for that. So I liked it kind of out in the lobby previously. I think it's great inside as well. Maybe there's a combination of both that can be utilized at some point, where we can get a little bit outside and a little bit inside. They're $1 each, so we're not so worried about them walking away. But it's just nice to advertise, and I think it's a good resource for people to bring in and get rid of their used books as well, share them out and reuse them and recycle them to other people. So yeah, I think it's coming along. It's real exciting to see. I like the color on the inside. I like the CLT for sure. The openness and everything that's pulling together. It's a lot of work to do this, and it's looking good. It's looking good.
Dan.
I think it's coming along great. I'm really excited about it. It feels a lot cleaner and just like it's more logical all the time, and yet still getting more beautiful, which is a great combo. I know it's too early to talk about furniture, but being an old bookseller, I'm always looking for ways to like feature, titles and stuff like that. So I love the sleekness of all those bookshelves, but I just want to say slat walls. They're kind of ugly, but on the ends, you have to be able to put books up and highlight them. Otherwise, people walk around in a, stupor. And you don't have any way of featuring your book clubs who are coming in, or your author who's coming that you're going to use that fabulous event room for, so we can make some money.
We'll keep that in mind. We were just talking about that today, by the way, just which stacks have tops that are suitable for display, and then what kind of end panels we might develop, and some of those, of course, would have display potential too. So thanks for the reminder.
I think regular slat walls are so big box store, but if there's another display option for end caps, something like that would be great.
Christy, go ahead.
So 2 things. Well, and first, before that, again, congratulations to the team. I just love seeing all of the new ideas and things transforming each time. It's really exciting to see. So congratulations. First, I wanted to ask for a refresher. I was trying to look through a lot of my master plan information. Was there a discussion, and I'm sure we had it and I've forgotten, about maybe a area for exercise equipment? Seeing the locker room and the discussions around the locker room, my brain just started going, okay, we have the gym, which, I'm trying to figure out the need for the locker room. And then it triggered, oh, didn't we talk about equipment? And maybe that got axed a long time ago, and I'm sorry if I forgot. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing was, I really want to reiterate the need for a book drop-off site that you can do from your car. I just think for people that have people with special needs or handicap and small children, and I really think it'll save parking issues too. So that's it.
Yeah, the cardio weight equipment, that was part of the discussion early in the programming, and it didn't make the final cut. But locker rooms are great. There are group exercise rooms where you can do yoga and Tai Chi. You can do Zumba classes and basketball, volleyball. So the lockers will definitely get used, but yeah, there wasn't adequate space really for the cardio weight portion of it.
I just couldn't remember. Thank you.
And the book drops are good. I'm glad you brought it up. We'll bring it back up to the library group.
I had one question. So Jim, if I'm a parent with a young child and I'm in the children's center and I need to change a diaper, where do I go?
You walk about 10 feet and there's a restroom there it's all set up for that type of situation. So yeah,
okay.
I'm glad you're bringing it up.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, we do have a dedicated children's restroom. And then there's also just another gender inclusive restroom for anyone in the library too, because, it's a good sized library, and having to leave the library to go across the hallway, it's not convenient. And, so anyway, yep.
I'm hoping to bring my grandkids there, so I may need that. So I want to make sure it was all there.
Yeah.
Dennis is looking forward to changing some diapers.
Yeah.
There you go. I take it. Nothing on the horizon, but it'll be a blessed day when that comes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if there's no other questions from our group here, I think we need to try and make sure we have some time for public comment. Catherine, I'll let you arrange for that.
Okay, I saw your hand up, Mark. Why don't we do public comment and we'll come back and then we can use all the rest of the time talking. So just checking to see if we have anybody in the audience who'd like to speak. If you do, you can, if you're on a phone, raise your hand. Or I see one. And then also if you're, excuse me, if you're on the phone, *9 to raise your hand. I see one hand. I'm going to let you speak. Can you? I think I have
Hi,
this.
Catherine.
Yeah.
It's Shonda. Is it my turn? Or were you talking to someone else?
Oh, you had your hand up to speak as the group. Hold on a minute, Shonda. We'll get right back to you.
Okay, fine.
Because you're also in the audience, so sorry about that. Is there anybody else in the attendees that would like to speak for public comment? Okay, we do. We have Thelma wants to speak. Hi, Thelma. Do you want to, I'm going to bring you into the room. Can you unmute? There you go. You muted and then unmuted.
There, now you can hear me?
Yeah, yeah. Nice to see your face.
Yeah. Well, not really, but that's the face you're going to look at.
Okay.
I'm just going to say that it's very exciting, since I started out way back when we were only talking about the concept of having a library group, and then seeing it come to this fruition that it's coming to. I think it's just the community doesn't know what it's getting. And I think that's important, that they know that it's going to get this kind of thing. So I'm assuming, and this is an assumption, that the thing like from tonight's meeting is going to be on the website or not.
Oh, absolutely.
So
maybe Liz, send it to me after the meeting and we'll get it up as soon as possible. It probably won't be up until Monday though, because the county's closed tomorrow.
So Catherine, your email is not accepting my responses to you. at the county level. I've told Ellen about it.
Oh,
I can't email to you, I can't email to Mitzi, and I can't email to Jessica Boderon.
oh, that's
So-
no good.
Yeah, I know that's not good. That's why I'm bringing it up right now. Something in the county system when the IT changed recently has blocked all three of you. So, but I want to put something out there in the next newsletter coming up in June that lets people go to the site and see what we saw tonight.
Oh, nice. That's great. Well, what we'll do is we'll work on that. Jason and I will work on that. And you can, in the future, email Jason, but I'll put that on my list to figure that out in the next couple of days.
Okay, well, like I said, I've turned it over to Ellen and she was going to try to work with the IT people and see
Okay.
what's going on, so.
Yeah. Okay, I'll touch base with Ellen.
Okay,
Thank you, Thelma.
sure enough.
Yeah, nice to see you, hear from you. Okay. So I think how much time, Doug? I think that's the end of public comment. Let's close the comment period and it's back to you, Doug, and other people that want to talk. I know Mark had his hand up.
Shonda.
And Shonda did too.
Yeah, go ahead. Shonda, let's go.
Okay, thank you. Kudos to the design team. Even though I can't see it, it sounds through. I'm excited about what's happening. So, and I really liked Christie's email. All of those points I think were very valid. I do have two questions. Is there a way, even though we are not going forward with the LEED certification, is there a way to quantify or announce or list our attempts or our efforts without the formal certification, kind of without stepping on LEED or, poaching or plagiarizing? I mean, can we have our own little plaque on the wall that says we did this, this, and this? That was one question. And the second question is, when does the art subcommittee start being formed?
So we're going to talk about the art subcommittee and the history subcommittee next meeting, Shonda. And
Okay.
So that'll be a big one there. And Liz can tell you more about. She mentioned briefly the AIA, and she kind of gave a bit of an outline of that. So you'd see that if you're able to get to that chart at some point. But Liz, go ahead and tell her a little bit more about the AIA and that's going to involve and how that's going to be represented.
Sure. And it's a similar in the sense that it's a similar scorecard where we're going to track all of these measures that we've been talking about. But it's just a self-reporting tool. So it's something that we'll use between the library and NCPRD and the design team to track our priorities and then see how we're doing and throughout the design. And the big difference is it's a tool for ourselves. And at the end, just like you mentioned, we'll have kind of a nice little summary of all of those measures that we can use to then figure out how we want to share that with everybody. And like you said, make our own plaques potentially.
Okay, yes, the end goal was to let the public know that we really tried hard to do LEED without doing all the process of certification and the funds required. And thank you for that. And just one other thing, Catherine, it's been great working with you. Happy trails.
Thank you, Shonda. I appreciate that.
Eben, did you have something you were going to follow up on the AIA?
Oh yeah, just if you don't mind, I thought those were great comments, and a few things come to mind that probably wouldn't be surprises to Liz. But it sounds like this building is on track to potentially be very close to a net zero facility, or maybe even at that spot. And so that I think might be something that the Energy Trust would, offer some visible signage for. Another thing that I think is potentially free is the Energy Star certification and that could be something that could get you a plaque. And then the other thing would be if there's space, perhaps just some information about the green design features that went into the building that would be the kinds of things that, would be covered by a LEED certification. So it's not so much about LEED, it's just like, hey, here's some of the neat things that we did when we designed this building. Those all might be great ideas that could still add value if there's no LEED plaque.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, I'm really hoping to see some things kind of sprinkled around the building that will say, hey, did you know up on the roof we've got photovoltaic cells and that are doing this, and did you know the water is doing this, and some little tooting our own horn kind of things for the building that I think would be a great opportunity to educate the public as well. Let them know what exactly was done with their tax dollars building this place. Mark, go ahead. I think you still had a question.
Yeah, just a couple. When we talked about missed charging stations, the county parks department started putting in some wheelchair charging stations, and those are kind of helpful too. So give that some thought. But the other thing I wanted to mention is that in a lot of public buildings now, we're beginning to see safe rooms instituted for staff members, and that is where a room that's kind of internal to the building. That is a place where staff can go if there is an event, a violent event in the facility. And I think there's some really good places in the plans right now that could work for that. And there's just a few extra things that are usually done for those safe rooms around the construction of it, the access to it, what kind of IT infrastructure it has to handle an event if someone comes in, that's violent. So just wanted to mention that as an opportunity that we might want to look at as we get deeper into it. So that was about it. Yeah, thank you.
You're muted, Doug.
Okay, Mark, I don't know if you saw, Evan added a comment talking about the charging station by law must have, that's ADA parking, which I guess that's different from, he's talking about charging wheelchairs themselves. And I don't know if that's something how that compares to charging electric bicycles, but something like that. Two-wheel charging. I guess wheelchairs mostly have four wheels, don't they? Anyway, we've got all kinds of possibilities here. So another exciting evening. So thanks so much to the team for sharing all this. And yes, Catherine, oh my gosh. It's been great working with you.
Thank you, but I'm not gone yet. I want to talk about our next meeting for a minute.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Business as usual.
Business
Okay.
as usual.
So I just want to remind everybody, Liz mentioned that we've added a meeting to our original schedule. So we're going to have a meeting on June 10th. And the reason we're having that meeting is we have so much business to do. So the business is, and we didn't want to take away time from talking about design. So we just added a meeting. I hope that works for you. We need to sort of re-elect our chair and vice chair because their terms are up. Doesn't mean they can't be re-elected, but we want to make sure there's opportunities for others. We are going to update our charter. It's not a big deal, but we have a little bit of work to do to update our charter. So we'll bring a draft. We'll send it out prior to the next meeting. And we'll talk about that. We also are going to select the art committee, as Liz mentioned. So Shonda, if you're interested in that, you can be working on your elevator speech. And then also the history committee. Mike, if you're interested in that, you can also be working on your elevator speech. So I just wanted to make sure people knew about that ahead of time so you could be thinking about if you wanted to be a chair, vice chair, art committee, history committee. And then we will also in the next meeting or two, figure out when the date is for the art committee to meet and the history committee to meet. We've got a little bit of organizing to do on that score. So other than that, that's the end of my business talk.
Well, thanks, Catherine, as always. All right, and yes, I'm sure I don't speak, I'm sure I speak for everybody to say we appreciate the extreme amount of effort and passion you've put into this project. Somewhere in here, we're going to have a Catherine Krieger room set aside.
Absolutely.
Maybe
I want Ray's room.
Maybe Ray will share.
That's yours.
When
Maybe we can share it, Catherine.
What's that?
Catherine's gonna give the
We can
commemorative
share it.
speech.
We'll share it, right.
Apparently, we'll have to invent digital placards for our doors.
All right.
Just because you're retiring doesn't mean you can't give the commemoration speech when we open this thing.
Oh yeah, we're gonna expect to see you at the ribbon
Right.
cutting. for
Well,
sure.
no
I'm sure
doubt
you-
I will be at the groundbreaking, but I'm really excited that the project management position is in great hands with Jason. You can see he's soaking up all the information as we speak. So,
Well, you've done a fantastic
Jason?
job, Catherine. I've really enjoyed having you at the helm. Thank you.
thank you. I appreciate that. Means a lot.
Yeah, I'll just say, for the design team, it's been amazing working with you. And, the project wouldn't be where we are today without, all your passion and your thoughtfulness. You just been a great leader and wonderful collaborator. So we're going to miss you. But we're welcoming Jason with open arms for sure. So,
Great.
but Catherine, you're pretty special. So
Thank you, Jim.
We'll miss you.
I'll miss you too, but I'll see you at the groundbreaking, I promise.
Okay.
I might even lurk in the audience on a few meetings.
All right.
Well, and yes, Jason, welcome to the team. We're glad to have you stepping up. As you can see, you've got some big shoes to fill, but if Catherine's got confidence in you, we'll trust that because we've been working on that all along. So that being said, we'll see you all. I'm actually gonna be out of town for the next meeting, but Dennis will take over. He's been dying to run a meeting here for a while. So, but we'll see you all, or well, you'll all see each other on June 10th. Until then, take care, be well.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.